Bonjour, broskies! As a Canadian, history class is unreasonably difficult due to an overabundance of non-Canadian sources. So, I want to help. Because back in my day getting ready for school, I had to get up at 10 o'clock at night half an hour before I went to bed, and I want to do better for the next generation. And also, consider this more of a compliment to previous knowledge to better showcase Canada. Other stuff was going on and it was very important. I just don't give a hoot about it right now. And because I don't want to drop off the face of the earth for like a year, I decided to divide this up into 2 videos, one for the Warfront and one for the home front. Will I ever get to the home front? Don't worry about it, bud. So first we need to address what even is Canada at this point. No Newfies or Labradors, and no none of it either. Newfoundland was still sorta there though, since they were under British rule. And I'd tell you all about how at the Battle of the Somme, out of around 800 soldiers, only 110 survived, and that they were the only British colonial unit to receive the title of Royal during the war. Which really, what's the worth of that when taking into account the already low population of Newfoundland? But they weren't part of Canada yet, so I can't tell you about it. Sorry. The causes of World War I are usually explained by the acronym MAIN. These are the underlying causes, so they didn't directly start the war, but boy, they definitely didn't help avert it. Militarism. Everyone just got a new toy for Christmas and wants to show it off. Let's go around the table, eh? Aw, poor Germany was jealous of England's navy, so they got some U-boats and blowtorches. And a canister of something. And America has a shotgun. Who'd have guessed that? Alliances. The OG Cold War, where everyone was building up their supply of friends to ensure others wouldn't want to attack them. It got to a point where everyone was so interconnected that one tiny little thing, like, I don't know, an assassination, would plunge all of Europe into chaos. Oh, and what's this? Europe took over half the world already too, making it not confined to the continent? Which takes us to... imperialism. Everyone had minions, but wanted more minions. Except they were actual people and diverse cultures that Europe was exploiting and dragging into their drama. Nationalism. Everyone thought they were better than everyone else, especially some Serbian guy. He had a bone to pick with some totally unimportant archduke in Austria-Hungary. And then the actual, oh shoot, war is happening moment was, drumroll please, an assassination. Canadians were just chillin', sipping syrup, playing hockey, and then bam, June 28th, 1914. Our boy Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, got. This is where alliances come in, because an assassination in the Balkans somehow got England to declare war on Germany. You got 2 major treaties/gains that come into play here, which are the Triple Entente and the Triple Alliance. If it helps you remember, Entente sounds French and has the French in it, and then you're on your own for the rest. But all those alliances dragged friends of friends into this minor disagreement in the Balkans, and now everyone's loyalties are being tested. And poor old Canada is being dragged along into whatever mess Britain decides to join because we were still joined to England at the hip. So why did Britain make choices? Well, if you think politics has changed in the last 100 years and that everyone used to be super prim and proper, you're in for a shock. Because of all that alliance stuff, Germany wasn't playing nice with Belgium and wanted to trespass them to go kick France in the shins. So Britain told Germany, hey, be nice to Belgium. And Germany responded saying that their friendship with Belgium is just a piece of paper. Like, girl, excuse me. So with that and everything else in mind, Britain was obviously ready to throw hands, which meant all of Britain, minions included. So little old Canada. World War I was essentially defined by this cool new technique of war called trench warfare, which also gave way to trench foot. Don't Google that. This was where everyone just dug into the ground and would shoot at you if you left the hole, despite the hole having very poor conditions. Obviously, there's more to this, but... Okay, Christmas truce. It wasn't even half a year into the fighting, and no one was having a good time. It was supposed to be a short, quick war. In and out. And yet, here we are. Already at Christmas. A lot of people just said, screw this. And fueled by the Christmas spirit, they all laid down their arms and played soccer together, showing the potential humanity had for peace. That's what you'd normally learn. But Canadians? Hallo, wollen Sie Fußball spielen? Fetche lavage. Remember that canister Germany brought to show and tell? Well, Canadians learned firsthand what that present was. Welcome to the Second Battle of Ypres. Spoiler alert, it did not stop at 2. They were in the trenches when all of a sudden the strange gas appeared near the French. And then all of them started dropping like flies, leaving little old Canada all alone, with a huge French-shaped gap. Canadians held the gap until British reinforcements arrived, even after the Germans released a second round of chlorine gas, this time directly hitting the Canadians head-on. But like the cockroaches we are, they persisted, by holding urine-soaked cloth to their faces. This was the start of Canada's Catch-22. Canadians wanted to prove themselves on an international stage and fight together instead of scattered throughout the British Army. But now this dependable gang of hooligans could only prove it during the worst battles possible, since the bar was now set pretty high. If there was a German stronghold that was impossible to beat, they usually sent in the Canadians. Primarily known for being downright terrible, the Battle of the Somme was the bloodiest battle of the war. On the first day alone, one singular day, the British had over 57,000 casualties, which is a lot. In total, the British had around 4,200,000 casualties by the end. And practically nothing was accomplished. Everyone could have just thrown themselves off a bridge and we would have had the exact same outcome. Vimy Ridge was pretty important, considering we got an entire monument for it. This was one of, if not the, most important battle for Canadians. And, well, it's partly thanks to Sam Hughes. Canada, up until this point, was generally spread out around everywhere. They weren't the Canadians, they were the British. But when Sam Hughes busted into the British War Office demanding all 4 Canadian regiments fight together, well, no one wanted to deal with Sam Hughes. Everyone else had previously tried to capture it 3 separate times, but it was near impossible since the Germans snagged it pretty early in the war and were heavily reinforcing it. So, it was decided. Better call the Canadians. To be fair, once the plan was concocted, the Allies did everything they could to ensure it would work, bombing it so badly a week leading up to it that the Germans called it the Week of Suffering. So it wasn't simply just Canadians going wild. There were some helpful fireballs and mushrooms involved. It's important to be humble when you're on top. And as our final battle, Passchendaele. Paul Gross himself fought in it. After his service in Chicago, he was ready. I love Paul Gross. Paul Gross, if you're watching this, I love you. Kiss, kiss. Fall in love. But seriously, this was a dumb one too. Everyone, again, was struggling to get a hold of it, so of course, send the Canadians in. Those said Canadians didn't want to go because of how horrible the conditions of the battlefield were. And this is taken into account that it is a literal battlefield. Hey, ya Aussies and Kiwis, we're here to relieve... Dang, you live like this? There was so much mud and bodies that Canadian Commander Arthur Currie took a stand and was like, hey, I don't want to send my troops in. This is going to be a pointless battle. And the British said, well, that's too dang bad. After being sent in, Canada quickly reported back that they secured it. All right, bet. Hand it over to the Allies and move on to the next battle. And then the Allies lost it? Not even lost it. The British abandoned it to fight somewhere else. We turned around for like a second, man. So, another dumb, pointless battle for Canadians. I think thus far I've called all of them dumb, but trust me, this one was especially dumb. Because Curry said there'd be 16,000 casualties for his boys, which was not a sacrifice he wanted to make. How many did there actually end up being? Just under 16,000. Like, this man can cook. Let him do his thing. And to properly put into perspective how good the Canadians were, the battle started July 31st, 1917. Canadians went in on October 26th, finished by November 10th. Ridiculous. Believe it or not, 1918 was looking pretty bad for the Allies, because at this point, Player 2 has entered the game. That made Germany panic and go into extreme fighting mode to deal with the wave of new, happy, fresh-faced soldiers, and ended up pulling a Russia with, I have more men than they have bullets, which is only pretty effective short term. Once Germany was forced to calm down, things started to greatly improve. But when was this? How will I know when the tides of war turned? That's bad writing to leave things vague and unanswered like that. I want you to look me in the eye and ask that again, this time with some reading comprehension involved. This final stretch, despite its lack of details, was pretty big for Canada. The battles you generally hear about only solidified why to send the Canadians in for the finale. They made us known as deranged freaks you didn't want to meet on the battlefield, so our reputation was pretty solid at this point. There were so many battles so quickly together here. Other battles had a lot of meaning for Canada as a whole, but these ones all blended together. Despite this blur, it was very deadly, with around 20% of Canada's casualties coming from these 100 days, which, I'll do the math for you, is a lot when comparing this to about, 4 years of war. Chances are you're watching this for a Canadian history class, so chances are you probably don't need to know this, but I think personally you should. Because you don't become a brutal killing machine by giving people hugs or besting them in hockey. POWs, prisoners of war. Keyword, prisoners. They surrender, and so then you have to babysit because, well, that's better than just sending them back in to try and kill you again. But this takes up time and resources, and also, the guy literally just tried to kill you. So, what if you just didn't have any? Hey, but what if they come up and surrender? You have to. Well, it's a shame our federal languages are English and French. Entschuldigung, aber wir sprechen kein Deutsch. Wait, he's speaking French. Is he? Weird. Now, I'm not saying Canada's directly responsible for this, since this was a new type of warfare where everyone was going off the rails. But after World War I, the Geneva Conventions on Prisoners of War was properly fleshed out, including that it's not the unit, but the entire nation that takes them in, and that they apparently deserve a basic level of respect? Man, I don't know, that might be asking for too much here. Anyways, I better see you in the next video. I swear the home front's exciting, okay? It's just like when you're left home alone and you get to secretly do stuff that you wouldn't normally be able to do, like vote or blow up Halifax. Tschüss!